So the other day I came across a video here on YouTube about a guy redesigning the Steam's website. It seemed like an innocent video, however the comments were overwhelmingly negative. People were criticizing the changes, saying it looked soulless, oversimplified, that it looked like every other generic website out there. People complained that he completely stripped the Steam website of its unique charm and identity. So this got me thinking about why we hate corporate brand design so much. It reminded me of the whole oversimplified logos meme and all the hate towards corporate art styles. On one hand, it's important for companies to change and adapt in order to reach their target audience, because if everything just always stayed the same, then our world would still look like this. But on the other hand, people value individual expression, and you can't just completely strip something of its charm and identity. Ryan Donohue, who was the former vice president of design at Zendesk, wrote an entire article about why corporate redesigns just suck. He said, as a reward for this expensive and undertaking, you will likely receive a backlash of trollish outrage when you first roll out your changes. Ironically, you should count yourself fortunate if anyone gives two shits about your rebrand at all. So I think there are 2 or 3 reasons why we hate these redesigns so much. Throughout our lives, companies constantly surround us and they're tied to many parts of our memories and identity. As a kid, you may have really liked drinking Tropicana before going to school, or you have a lot of memories watching Nickelodeon late at night. So when their brand all of a sudden changes drastically, you feel betrayed. It feels like you lost that childhood nostalgia, and it just breaks all that emotional connection that you had with the brand. We humans are hardwired to hate change because it disrupts our way of thinking. It's much easier to stick to our old ways rather than put in the effort to adapt to something new, even if it's objectively better. And there's also the bad reputation that corporations have. They're seen as these big, faceless organizations that only care about making money, and they exploit their workers and don't care about the environment. And to a lot of people, they just seem very out of touch and inauthentic. And so it's no surprise that we also associate their logos and websites with being bland and soulless. So that's where we reach a bit of a dilemma. Like I said earlier, companies need to change, and that's a good thing for them to succeed. But it also needs to be positive change. Like, is it possible to do all this while dealing with the backlash, or is it even possible to avoid it at all? So to answer this, I think we could put brand redesigns into 3 categories. So the first category, we have the flops. So the flops are basically brand redesigns that got so much hate that the company had to reverse. Some brands that were flops include Tropicana, Gap, and Smuckers. So the big pattern that we see here is that these were drastic changes that were almost completely different from before. And there's almost nothing that references the iconic parts of the old logo. So next up we have the survivors. So these were brand redesigns that got a lot of hate at first, but eventually everyone just forgot about it and stopped caring. And these include Instagram, Starbucks, Google. So the main reason why these brands were able to stick it out through all that hate is because of cost of constraints. Basically, no one's gonna stop using Google or stop drinking Starbucks over a logo. These are brands that have so much value to us, or very few alternatives, that we're not just gonna boycott them because they changed the shade of green or something. Commitment bias is where people continue their same behavior despite negative emotions. It's the reason why a lot of people stay at jobs they hate. It's because they already put so much commitment into it. And it's also why, people will make fun of the Instagram logo, but will continue to stalk their ads to see if they viewed their story. So next up we have the Giga Chads. So obviously these are the ones that got more positive feedback than negative. There are very few brands that make this category, but the ones that do include Olive Garden, Marriott, and MasterCard. A pattern that we see here is that these weren't too dramatic changes, and a lot of them kept the most iconic parts of their old logo. For example, Marriott kept the iconic M in their logo, and even though Olive Garden simplified a lot, I think we can all agree it looks way better than their old logo, and they maintain that personality through the curvy strokes. And also the logo has olives now instead of grapes. So I think the key takeaway here is that unless your brand is as influential as Google, a redesign should take into account the psychology of the customers. It may also be beneficial to just ask for feedback instead of just slapping on a new logo out of nowhere, but at the same time, we humans are irrational and we make a lot of quick judgments. When Slack changed their logo in 2019, people quickly called it very interesting things, but a survey that was later done on over 1,000 people showed that 73% actually liked the new logo. So going back to the video I saw about redesigning Steam's websites, I do agree that it does need a little bit of a revamp, but I think it should still keep its most iconic features such as the blue backgrounds, the gradients, and the green discount tags. Because I don't think brand redesigns or oversimplified logos even are inherently bad. Like, yes, it can be done poorly, but it also can be done well. And all this just shows how important design is in our lives. You know, we grow emotional attachments to these colors and fonts and shapes, as evident by the strong reactions to these changes. And so, whether you agree or not, I think it's important that before we make a snap judgment, we should first let off some steam.